Well, good day. It's the McCall to Talk podcast here. My name's Tony McCall, as some of you know, and I'm here today with a former colleague of mine within the technology industry, Gerhard Zawatzki, who is from Germany. And hi, Gerhard, first of all, again.
Hi, Tony.
Hi there. But Gerhard, one of the things as I move on to my new pastures, if you like, is we're doing a lot of work, and I wanted to do work around trauma and helping people to I say cope with trauma, more like find a way forward with the various trauma. And this comes from my own experiences of life going right back to childhood, and then realizing actually I think it doesn't hurt to try and help people if we can. And of course in our conversations we quickly disclosed, if you like, things that I probably would never have dreamt of disclosing to, let's say, work colleagues. But I think because we had built a friendship fairly quickly,
Hmm.
we started to disclose some of our more, personal challenges, if you like. And lo and behold, it transpired that it's one of those, and I'm hesitating obviously because it's one of those experiences that, of course, I think most people know about, and it's the one of those. I say one of those because there's obviously a few things that we all dread and would just be the most awful thing for any of us to see, experience, be part of, and be victims of. And it transpired indeed, Gerhard, that you were part of this. And to finish that introduction to it, this will be going out on the, correct me if I'm wrong, Gerhard, anywhere in this, but the 19th of December. So we're recording this the day before. And so when you hear this, it will be today, as will be the 8th anniversary of the Berlin Christmas markets. And actually, what I'd like to say on the to keep it on this positive, if you like, as which would be the reason you went there, is that I've been to Germany. I've been to Germany at Christmas. I've took my family to Germany because I loved it so much. I met good people like you, Gerhard, in Bonn, complete strangers. I walked through there with my kids, and they welcomed me. They were asking me where I was from, like real local people in Bonn. And we all stood around in the Christmas market, and we had some mulled wine, and the people, I will never forget how warm and welcome those people were. Remind me of yourself. And of course that has then progressed around the world, as I went to Manchester only a couple of weeks ago, and there we are in a German Christmas market, as the rest of the world tried to exploit this fantastic feeling that's created around these events, and obviously very much a positive event for everybody, for families. And I guess that leads me into, Gerhard, there's a Christmas market in Berlin. Forgive me,
Breitscheidplatz.
Breitscheidplatz. Have I said that right?
Breitscheidplatz. Yeah,
Yep,
Breitscheidplatz.
Breitscheidplatz.
Yeah. Hmm.
And of course, for the same reason, all these people are attending this event, and it's the 19th of December, circa 8 o'clock, I guess. And so my first question to you, Gerhard, is, what brings you to this Christmas market, and who are you with? Walk us through arriving on this, what ended to be somewhat of a awful, dreadful, unthinkable day.
Of course, Tony.
Yeah.
You remember originally I'm from Munich. I was born in Munich, lived almost all my life in Munich, but in the last 20 years, I was living in Berlin. And 8 years ago, one of my friends from Munich came to Berlin for like a Christmas weekend shopping. And he got some company with other friends. And so there was a group of 5 person that I met, and being all from my original hometown, even from a very similar area. And yeah, we met there, and we had a very, very good time, excellent time. We met about 6:30, and we had some drinks, as you mentioned, the wine,
Yeah.
and yeah, we had good talks, and then it became 8 o'clock, 2 minutes, and the life changed. So
Yeah. I mean, for a lot of us, Gerhard, we have. of course, we knew it at the time, like these major events, it's one of those, we kind of all know where we are and what we did at certain moments in our lives. Of course, the infamous occasions, and this became another one as it rattled around, on all the news networks. So, I mean, if you're able, we know from a news outlet point of view, but from being on the ground from those initial moments, I mean, what was your thoughts? Did this strike you? I mean, at any point did you think, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was the astonishingly horrible attack in the south of France there. That was the
Mhm.
same year, wasn't it? I think.
It was the same year, yeah.
Yeah. So was that fresh in your mind, you think, or did you react
Oh,
quickly or think like that, or
oh. No, when it happened, I mean, we can talk what really happened when the truck was driving through the Christmas market, right?
yeah,
And just a few seconds before, my friends and I been standing in the runway, and really like 20 seconds before, I just asked them to go to a different position, move up the steps to go to a stand with Polish specialties, because I thought that might be tasty, and
yeah,
was hungry, and I asked the other friends of mine to go there, and just when we went there, the truck was driving through the position. Also, we were just standing. 20 seconds made a big difference to us, and of course, I was aware that happened something, but I was not even seeing it directly.
yeah,
I was just more seeing all the people running away towards us. And so the first reaction was to to get out of the way from these people that been running. Yeah.
yeah,
And so we let them pass. But my thought was not that there was a terrorist attack or something like that. I
yeah,
just knew there was something going on there. There happened something. And so that's why I returned to just figure out, was there something? People got hurt. Do they need help? That was my first thought. There was no, oh, was this like an accident? Was this a terrorist attack? Was this whatever, right? So I just
yeah.
knew there happened something and there might be people that need help. So that's why I went back.
And so from the moment of there's some noise or something, there's some panic to
Yeah,
you thinking people might need help. You're thinking the timeline seconds.
seconds. I mean, it
Yeah,
was like immediately
yeah,
because, yeah, the first, as I said, the first reaction was just hide, get across, let's say, next to the building that the church is there. I mean, going
yeah,
really like to the wall of the church and lean against the wall and let the people pass by. And then my immediate thought was there happened something and people could be hurt and maybe they need help. That was my
yeah,
immediate thought.
yeah. And again, if any point we can move on, Gal, but can I ask if was you able to help anybody in any way? I mean, even if you're guiding people, of course, it is some kind of help, but self-preservation, of course, is vital as well. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, of course. The good thing is my background. I've been a volunteer on ambulance driving in Munich when I was younger, between my age of 20 and 30. I was a volunteer at the Arbeiter-Samariter-Bund, which is like a public rescue service in Germany.
yeah,
Um, and I got some experience. I was also trained on disaster occasions. For example, if there's like an airplane crash or something like that.
yeah, some
I
major
was
incident. Yeah,
I was a team leader. I got really like trained in organizing things, in doing a triage and all these things.
yeah,
So, but of course, it was over 25 years ago. But still, it was like a switch in my mind to just call that information back and see what I can do.
Yeah.
And as you said, I mean, I was really able to just, because they've been already first responders, like first responders,
Yeah.
people that been together there, not hurt and taking care about hurt people. So
Yeah.
my first action was to really look after each person on the ground and speak to other persons if they are able to help, what further assistance would they need, if I could do anything. And so I moved from one to the other. And finally I found one guy um, that was on the ground. No one took care of him. At the very first moment, I didn't even know what really happened to him. I just knew that
Mm.
he was hurt. Later on, I learned that he was rolled over twice by the truck over his how to say that, the belly area.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
like midriff yeah,
yeah.
it's like caught.
So later on, I really learned that it was a miracle he survived,
Okay. Right.
because normally when you get injured like that, that's your death penalty.
Yeah.
Yeah, he should have been died in the same moment.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
So, and yeah, I mean, the main thing was really like looking after him, what his body responses is, because lifting him up, lay him down, and in making sure that he's not falling asleep. That was one of the main things I could do at this moment.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, there was information by the doctor at the Charité, that's the biggest hospital in Germany, yeah, in Berlin anyway, that if he would have fall asleep, he would have never been wake up.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was, yeah, I mean, he was sentenced to death basically by this terror attack. But so I was able to just save him.
Yeah. I mean, for people to say thank you and things like that, it's almost like patronizing in a way, because what else would you do? I'm sure any decent person would run to the help of anyone, um, but it does take a tremendous amount of resolve and resilience, and because we all know. So I know, Gerhard, in some of the studies I've done now as I move into my new career, like the effects of cortisol, which is that fight or flight reaction to something extremely traumatic happening
Mm.
in a very short space of time. So I've learned about this myself. Um, so for you to, even hang around, to think, right, what can I do? Is incredible human strength that I think, you know,
At this moment, the thing is, in this moment, you even don't think about it. I mean,
yeah,
afterwards, I was interviewed by the police, and they asked me, "Why did you go back?" And
yeah,
I was really wondering why. What is this question about? Because there was no question for me at that moment to go back. But then I learned that, yeah, that the police also thought. I mean, there is an experience that in Paris, for example, that after the attack, terrorists been waiting for first responders and shooting at them as well.
yeah, like a second phase
Yeah,
of
second
yeah,
phase of the attack.
yeah,
And I even didn't thought about it. It was at that moment, the only important thing was to help the people on the ground.
yeah,
So that's, you don't consider any threat for yourself or any danger.
yeah.
That's
And
even
I'd like to think, God, I'm sure we all would, that I would do the same. I'd love to think that I would do that, but the truth is, and
you
God
don't
forbid
know.
I never know. I hope I
You
never
never
know.
know, but
But
as I know you, Tony, I know that you're also a person that takes care about others, and that is a situation. If someone needs help, just running away and
yeah,
ignoring the situation, you couldn't do it. I know that.
yeah. Yeah, so I mean, to hear the detail there is breathtaking, Gerhard, and thank you for sharing it. And of course, part of this as well, because I'm only thinking about the victims. Obviously, the and victims being those immediately affected, of course, those, maimed, injured, and of course, there's fatalities. And then there's the extended part, which we'll come on to, which is, of course, the family, and then
Mm,
people that have seen it. And in the course of meeting with you today, Gerhard, I just did a bit of reading on a couple of things, and I was reading about the Nice attack because me and my
mm.
wife went there last year. It was she's been sick for a long, long time, and it was the first time we could go anywhere. So we jumped on the chart. I'm so glad we went. And they have a memorial there on the front, of course, where that horrific event happened. And we read the memorial, and then I looked on the maps and I thought, oh, there's another memorial. It's in a churchyard further back. So we decided we would walk back. And I don't know that it when we went in there into the gardens of the memorial, and they have a memorial wall, and it has the pictures of all the victims. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
oh, we 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 must have stood there for 10 minutes and we didn't speak, just looking. It is just the harsh reality of, I think when you're out of the equation, like, it doesn't affect you directly. It's not your family. You see it on the news. You're aghast at what happened. Of course, you feel for the people, but there's something about being on that site and then seeing the pictures that absolutely blew us away. Of course, the large volumes, the ages, the young adults, the elderly, the couples, people there for
It hits
retirement, and
all
then of course the
society.
children. Oh,
Yeah, it hits all society from young to old. Um, I've
yeah,
seen people, well, a young lady dying. She was about like 22, 25, in somewhere in between. And she was really like dying in front of me. And there've been also other, let's say, older, like my age person
yeah,
that have been killed, and from different countries. It was not just an attack on Germany, it was an attack on the Western society. I've seen people, I just learned from you that there have been also people from the UK injured, but
yeah. Two I read were injured. Yeah,
on the death penalty, there have been like Polish, Italian, Israeli, from different countries,
yeah,
and from Germany. So it was not an attack on Germany. It was an
yeah,
attack on our really like Western society and our way to
yeah.
live.
And it's just so random because, like as we said there, everyone from children's families, couples, people on the start of their, I mean, my children at the start of their adulthood, just graduating from university. Lots of people, this sort of age that I saw on the French one as well. Yeah, and like, and people from all societies.
Mm.
This isn't like, oh, we're picking a certain, I don't
Yeah,
know,
not only rich
demographic.
people or not poor people. It was just
Yeah,
like an average.
yep.
And
It just happened to be, and it's just the most awful thing, Gerhard. And I want to ask you, if I may, you've, and also trying to be respectful to the victims as well, of course, without question. That's the people we want to talk about. So with that in mind, was there like an age before, kind of, if you feel like if not the the cavalry arrives, the right, here we go, we've got the people with the equipment,
yeah,
the
no,
emergency
yeah,
services are now here in force, and
the rescue services, the police
yeah,
and rescue services. Yeah. Mm.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, of course, there was, yeah, like, I mean, it's hard to say because when you are in the situation, time is a very uncontrolled thing. I mean, you have no time feeling. I just know that when I was finished at the place to support other people, I was looking at the watch of the church, and it was like 10 o'clock.
oh,
And
so
so
2 hours or so had passed.
I was almost about 2 hours, like 1 hour, 50
Yeah,
minutes, or something,
okay,
there and helping people. Yeah, and that it was a very long time, and also let's say, the rescue service in Berlin learned a lot about this occasion. It never happened in Berlin,
Yeah.
or well, let's say it didn't happen in Berlin for like over 10 years
Hmm.
before. But there was the attack on La Belle, for example, that was also in Berlin. So there was some history, of course, but there was a
Hmm.
long time nothing happened like that. And so the rescue services really lose competence on supporting that. And I know there is every year, let's say, a conference to improve the service and the immediate response of I say that like ambulance services,
Hmm.
strategies on how to better support people in these situations. Also from the police side, they've been analyzing their mistakes, so there've been a lot, and finally they're trying to improve the situation. But it took too long, to be honest, from a professional point of view, because I was an ambulance driver before. I mentioned that in the beginning when
Yeah.
I volunteered rather in between my 30s and 30s. Um, and I knew that it was too long and there needs to be some change. And I also went into conversation with the organizations afterwards
Yeah.
because it really bothered me a little.
Hmm.
So I really needed to talk about it as well. And I also talked to, let's say, the president of police in Berlin. And
Yeah.
so we are in a yearly exchange, what things are changing, because I'm really ambitious also to support victims of terrorism in Germany as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
I call it my hobby, but of course it's more
Yeah.
meaningful than just collecting stamps, for example, to me at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
I'd call it my hobby, and I'm in contact with European organizations on support of victims of terrorism, with the European Union, with the United Nations, and so on. So
Okay.
um, I became very active in that space too, aside of my
Okay.
normal job.
Yeah. So there's always room for improvement, Gerhard, I think, in these things. I mean, you only have to watch, dramas on TV of like major
Yeah,
incidents, of course, like plane crashes and things, and again, all these disasters that we all know about, but we would all dread of anything that happens to us. And of course, if you watch, you may not have it your side there, but we certainly do here. And there's a regular program here on plane crashes, for example, and and it kind of like the investigation process that goes with them
mhm,
wherever they happen.
yeah,
And with all of those elements, there's of course always what could we do to make sure this never happens again.
yeah, yeah,
And that's of course I find it fascinating, to watch that. Of course, there's the physical, mechanical, the engineering, design, those core elements of the fact that you have, this vehicle in the air and that keeps it there, and then the human error, and then a lot of the time, if you watch that, there's the reaction which results in human error because of, if you like, panic and just poor reaction to certain situations. In fact, I've seen many of those occasions that, let's say, could have been avoided. So I think it's brilliant that you are taking your time to work with the authorities, because there can be nothing more accurate than what you saw and heard yourself. And of course, the first responders, they're all innocent as well. They're doing their best to try and help people. But if you could describe or think of any, is there any elements, from the authorities' point of view, that or have been part of, that they would do better or can do better? I mean, for example, I know everywhere around the world, Gerhard, if we go now to public spaces in the UK, if I go to London, it's now, well, we know we're leading up to Christmas. It's that time of year. It, it, the concrete bollards are there around
yeah,
all
yeah,
of
yeah,
those
yeah,
gatherings.
yeah, yeah.
That's changed the world.
Yeah, that came after the Berlin terrorism attack
Yeah.
on the Breitscheidplatz. It's also in Germany with every like bigger size Christmas market. You see this this how you call it, the barriers
Yeah,
for
yeah,
driving through.
yeah,
You see that on many Christmas markets now, and that is like a consequence of that terrorism attack on the Berlin
yeah,
Platz Christmas attack. Yeah. Mm.
yeah. And you think about of course, like I said, the victims, but you know the holistic people, the number of people around this scenario. So the first responders,
Mm.
God forbid, I hope it never happens, of course, but now that could be my son,
Mm.
and
Of course.
you know that could be a friend of ours. Their son is a fireman, and so on. So we kind of all know these people, and we know how traumatic that can be for those people also.
Mm. Yeah, it's also for their
Yeah,
job. I mean, I was talking to police people as well, like normal officers,
yeah,
and they are, I mean, they get support from, of course, from the police and from
yeah,
the officers behind it. But it's always somewhere in their mind that it could have a consequence for their career if they've been diagnosed with PDS, whatever is post-traumatic syndrome.
post-traumatic distress
Yeah,
syndrome, or
exactly.
however it's deemed.
And
Yeah,
it's always in their mind that that could be affecting their further career. I mean,
yeah,
it's not that traumatic for, let's say, older officers like
yeah,
us that been in the job for many years, but
yeah,
for younger guys that been like in service for, let's say, 5, 10 years, something, they still are looking forward for promotions and further responsibilities in their career, and they're always a little bit worried to go forward and get out. I mean, really say something about their situation.
yeah. And I guess these things can manifest in so many different ways in terms of post-traumatic stress. And I also read even a study on the youth, so under 18s in the area of the French attack earlier that year.
Mhm.
There was measurements that I read about the effect generally on young people
Mm.
that just maybe lived in the area. So we all kind of know, like if you live in an area, what effect does that have on people, and including in young people? And actually, there was a clear spike in stress related kind of disorders in children that were unrelated, that didn't know any of the victims, but were presenting with kind of symptoms relating to stress,
Yes,
because this it affects so many people, doesn't it?
it does.
Yeah.
And I've been in contact also, as I said, I mentioned, I'm taking care about the rights of victims of terrorism in Germany. And I spoke to many people also from the Oktoberfest terror attack that is now like 43 years ago, or it's
Mm,
what 44 years ago, whatever. And there have been especially young people there as well. I know one guy who was 12 years old when the attack happened, and of course it affected his whole life. So
yeah,
cool. His mother got killed, two sisters got killed. So how can your life be normal afterwards?
yeah,
Yeah, people sometimes compare it or say, where's the difference if you have like a car accident and what is the difference to a terrorism attack? And I can't really explain what is the difference because I've never experienced that I lost someone during a car accident. But it is an always remembering thing. You can work over your sadness, losing a family member, and of course, there's like always the anniversary day. But with a terrorist attack, it's also on the television. Um, People talk about it. It's in the public. Um, and your name is mentioned sometimes in the press. So it always goes on and on and on for the rest of your life. The person that I've mentioned, for example, to change the family name,
yeah,
yeah, because of that. And so it's it's um, it's a really traumatic situation. Yeah.
yeah. So, Gerhard, if I may take you on to like post the event, um, and like moving forward for you, did you, again, everyone's different. I call it as well, like with grief, there's no right
Mm.
way or wrong way to grieve about someone or
Mm.
loss. And we had this in my family. And personally being, I didn't realize at the time, but, like kind of working out that I was being analyzed with my emotions. And you think,
Mm.
crikey, I wasn't analyzing myself and other people are analyzing me, or you should be upset, you should be crying, you should be not crying, you should be tough, you should be weak, you should, there is no right and wrong way. But for you personally, I guess there's the initial come down afterwards, where obviously I guess shock maybe sets in, and then in the coming days, did this kind of hit you very early on? Did you suffer early on?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The, when I was coming back when it was like 10 o'clock when I finished my my support on the victims, and my first thought was then just very rational, because I was, of course, a little bit covered with blood. It was not like totally covered, but my hands been bloody and so on. So my first thought was, I just want to clean I want to wash my hands. That
yeah,
was my first thought. And so I did, and I found a hotel that was still open close by, just on the other side, where I was able to go inside and could use the restroom and wash my hands and sit down with someone, because there was like an emergency psychological support installed during that after the attack. So there been therapists sitting there, and you could talk to, and I did. And at this moment, I was more like, yeah, satisfied with myself, not with the situation, but with myself. So I did something.
yeah. Quite proud
Um,
of you, your ability to try and help
Proud
someone
is
or people.
probably not the right word, but I was
Right.
like, I just said to myself, like, yeah, I mean, it was okay. You did what you could do.
Yeah,
Um, and I was not running away. I didn't let people
yeah.
down. So I was like, I thought like I did my duty on this.
Okay.
And I was okay with myself at this moment. And then I was driving home, and I arrived at home like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't sleep. There
Yeah.
was no way to sleep. Then I switched on the television, and of course, TV was full with the situation. Even I was on the pictures sometimes. There was recorded previously,
Hmm.
um, and I couldn't sleep until Christmas Eve. I was the first night I was sleeping after the attack was on the 24th. So I wasn't sleeping for like 5 days. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, and of course then I was sleeping like 12, 14 hours in a row. Yeah. But
Yeah,
I couldn't sleep. Whenever I closed my eyes, I saw pictures that I don't want to explain.
I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
your brain is taking control over you. I mean, you
Yeah.
got no control. You got no control, because some people say, I just don't think about it, but it's not
Hmm.
possible. You close your eyes, and immediately you got pictures in front of you that you don't want to see.
Yeah. And no one should ever see.
Exactly.
Yeah, no one should ever see that. And the problem is, God, is you can't unsee it, right? That's it. Once
Yeah.
it's there, it's imprint.
Yeah. And even 8
Yeah.
years later now, I learned a little bit to control it, and to work with the situation, but I mean, I still have the problem that even when we talk now, I'm controlling myself not to think about it too much.
Yeah.
Even in normal day-to-day business, when I have a customer call, I see
Yeah.
someone, I always think about it. I need to control myself not to think about it, or to
Yeah.
focus more towards the situation at the moment right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an obvious thing to say, I guess, Gerhard, but you've just described there in your day-to-day work. People
Mm,
might not know it, but you're already taking some kind of diversory action in to try and control your own thoughts and
mm,
divert your thoughts somewhere else. And I guess that would be the case. For example, the obvious example is, can you have you been back to any kind of similar event, as in what you went there for in the
yeah,
first
eight
place?
years.
Yeah,
I've been asked once to go to a Christmas market in Czech Republic with a customer,
yeah,
and I really tried to do it, but I couldn't. We stayed at the border, and I said, okay, sorry, but I
yeah.
can't go
Wow.
inside.
Yeah,
Um, we may have a drink on the side, but then let's just go somewhere else. And of course, I'm always going back to the anniversary to as a respect towards the victims,
yeah,
the killed people especially, and being part of the ceremony. But that's the only one time I go to a Christmas market
yeah,
during a year. And of course there are other people that you can talk to that made the same experience. They're grieving family members, and that is the only way I can handle that situation.
yeah. I mean, it's Gerhard, I won't lie to you, it's hard enough to listen to, let alone to have that in, your mind. That is, yeah. So, I always had a high opinion of you, and we never got into the kind of obviously this depth of the conversation. I know what happened, and I could only imagine. And what I'd like to do, if I may, is kind of take you then down the kind of it's not repair work. It's not repair work. I don't believe you'll probably agree, because how do you repair something like this? But I have a phrase actually for my own trauma, and or people I try and help. I say, even with loss and grief, it's not necessarily something you get over, but it's something you can get on with,
Mhm.
and find the little windows where you can get on. And someone said to me recently, "What do you do for yourself?" Because I'm, described as quite resilient and have good resolve, mind you, and not to go through what you did, but I kind of have three things myself. And the first one is, and it sounds really corny because maybe people think, I don't know, you just want to look good. It's really not. It's something that genuinely for me, I find that by helping others,
Mm.
that is kind of, and it could on a completely different topic, but if just by helping others, that in some way I get something from that. And
Yeah,
of course, what you've described straight away on that is you're kind of on that journey almost immediately from the second it happened, you was helping, and to this day you're still doing your best to try and help others.
exactly. That's what I'm really what I just learned a lot also about the situation afterwards, how you get treated by the government and by officers that should support you, that should get you medical treatment and all these things. They're all trying to avoid cost. That is one of the first things. So there is a game with medical experts and so on. So
Mm,
that's what I'm battling with to change something in Germany, because still Germany is one of the rich countries on
yeah.
this planet, right? But when it comes to support victims of terrorism, we're trying to save every euro. I mean, it's really like it's really funny. I mean, if it wouldn't be that sad, let's say it would be funny.
Yeah, so they don't have the infrastructure, the resource to really, in your opinion, they're not doing enough, Gerhard.
They are setting up the bureaucracy,
Yeah,
which is I can give you an example. I'm in therapy, and I probably will be until the rest of my life in being in therapy.
yeah,
But every like 20 hours, I have to prove myself that I need the therapy.
mm,
Yeah, which is nonsense because it's obvious and it's clear and it's also clear for them, but they're just setting up the bureaucracy, and it always takes them time that my therapy is interrupted. We are at the moment, I'm waiting since 4 months for the extension of my therapy. So the state knows they have a duty to do it because it's in human rights. The protection and the support of victims of terrorism is part of the human rights. So
Yeah.
Germany is breaking the human rights by not supporting victims of terrorism in a proper way.
Okay.
Yeah. But they just keep ignoring it because it only affects a small number of people.
Yeah.
It's not like a million of people that have been affected, but still there are people there in Germany. There are about let's just think back on several attacks that we had in Hanau, in Solingen, in different countries over the last
Yeah.
years. Um, there have been like 1,000 people in total that
Hmm.
need support as victims of terrorism, but the government just ignores it. And we also have like a political problem in Germany because we are built like the United States. So it's Germany has a central government,
Yeah.
well known, but the fact is that Germany is 16 states. So it's Bavaria, it's Berlin, Saxonia, Lower Saxonia, and these regions in Berlin.
Yeah.
And they do, and the responsibility to support victims of terrorism relies to the cities, to the states in Germany. So it's the responsibility of Berlin to support victims
Yeah.
of terrorism that live in Berlin and others that live in Brandenburg or in Saxonia. Their government there is in responsibility, and the service towards, well, I said they are also not, there's no standard. When we speak to some other victims in other areas, we see that they get better supported than less supported and no support. And Berlin is really like a city state that's trying
Yeah.
to avoid support for victims of terrorism, and it's really sad.
Well, that's it's sad and remarkable to hear, Gerhard, quite honestly, because that should be just endless support. Um, would seem very an obvious thing. I mean, I can't tell you that our country here would be any better, or because I don't know. I haven't done that research, so it would be wrong to.
I know that the UK is not as bad as Germany.
Yeah.
I know, for example, France and Spain are the best supporting countries for victims
Okay.
of terrorism. They really, like, let's say, established a certain procedure for victims of terrorism that
Yeah.
supports them. Uh, Looking back in 2017, I didn't get any support because I was told, me as a civil first responder, it was my private decision to go there and go back, yeah, because I was already like away from the place of the terrorist attack. So it was
Yeah.
my personal decision to go back and support and help other people, and it's
Yeah.
my personal responsibility. That's what I've heard 2017.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
there,
Yeah,
as
that's
was
shocking
mentioned,
to hear.
yeah, and as mentioned, there was the office installed for the victims of terrorism by the German government, and I wrote them an email, and their response was, "Yeah, thanks, thank you, you be there. We wish you all the best for your upcoming life, and goodbye." Serious. And then
Yeah.
I just returned. I said, "I'm also a victim. I need support. I need help," and there was no reply anymore.
I mean, that is just stunning to hear.
Yeah. And 2 years later, I had
Yeah.
the opportunity, by the support of some other um, grieving family member,
Yeah.
to speak to the new responsible person. And because he also was refusing to support first responders, and I had the opportunity to talk to him personally, at least.
Mm.
So after what was like 2019, um, there was an official move forward that they also accepted first responders as being part of the terrorist attack. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
What about the people that you can speak freely. If you already work in the authorities, you probably think you can't speak up. Like you
Mm.
say, young people worried about their careers, do
Mm.
they really get the support?
No.
And then there's this whole group that are either could spiral in self-destruction or could even turn to suicide. And
Yeah.
yet all the same organizations, they all have the intervention opportunities to really do something about it,
Yeah.
to really do something.
There are
And
some
it's
examples as
scary.
well. I can give you another example. There was one teacher involved,
Yeah.
and um, the school district of Berlin sent out a warning to the schools and said, okay, don't hire this teacher because he's traumatized.
Wow.
And yeah, and
So there's so
we
that
recommended to him to go to a different country, like going outside of Berlin, Brandenburg, or go to Saxony or somewhere else. But you don't get a job anymore in Berlin.
so this because there's like a stigma that you
Yeah,
have
of course.
some issues because of your
Yeah.
trauma.
Yeah, we don't want you next to our children. But the person, the thing is really that even PTSD is is not like automatically making a violent person out of you. It goes back to your
Of course.
main personality. Yeah. If you
Yeah.
never been violent in your life against anyone else,
Yeah.
are you not becoming violent? The main problem is with people that been aggressive before, they do have a lack of control of their emotions. And of course, when I talk about the situation about the attack, sometimes I start crying because my emotions are on a higher level.
Yeah.
Um, and but there's no anger in myself about other people, right? So I'm not like a violent person in my base
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
mentality. So that's why I'm not becoming violent. I would, yeah, I would never.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But you're not being violent and you're not reacting that way, which of course is another reaction that some people can happen, of course.
Mm.
But it's not a natural, it's not a 100% consequence of what you went through. But at the very least, then if you feel like you should be getting help, then yeah, I kind of expected or presumed. It's a bit arrogant of me to say, Gerhard, because you're in Germany and you're, you know, a German citizen, it would be arrogant of me to suggest that it's any different here. You know, because I genuinely don't know. It probably might, or most likely is similar. I don't know.
There are problems, of course,
Yeah,
and I'm also in contact with people that are supporting victims of terrorism in the UK.
yeah,
And, I'm not 100% sure if the situation is one-to-one comparable.
yeah,
What I see is the awareness is higher than in Germany. Germans really having problems with, let's say, give you the right awareness.
yeah,
Yeah, we just played down everything. Yeah, it took
yeah,
Angela Merkel also a week to respond to the situation or to the attack in France. The president would be there in the same hour. Yeah, and
yeah,
do recognize what about the situation. And but in Germany, it's all let's forget it. Let's play it down. Yeah, we don't want to remember it. Looking forward, working. Yeah,
yeah,
and that's a part of the German mentality. But on the other side, victims of terrorism sometimes really need financial support as well. And as far as I've heard, that is also not perfect in the UK too. Yeah, there's
yeah.
problems
Yeah.
going on.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Like I said, but that would need some more research for me to clarify. But all right. So what I'm going to do to finish up to take this towards a close, Gerhard, is I'm going to just take you through some what I call these. Well, it's not what I call. I learned about these resilience framework, and to see if you agree or
Hmm.
comment. Before I do that, because this is going to close it out, I do want to ask you quite a pertinent question, important question. Knowing what you know now, then, so you're this is 8 years post the event. Knowing what you know now, and knowing what you it has put you through, and knowing what support you got or didn't get as a result of it, you had the choice, according to that email, as well. You had the choice to walk away and to make yourself
No,
safe, or to go back. Wo- But the question is, Gerhard, would you do it again?
there is a choice that I have. Let
Yeah,
one person die or help him to live. So
yeah,
for me, there's no question.
yeah,
I would never let a person die.
yeah,
And there are people that need my help. I would always, always help whatever it matters. There's no choice for me.
yeah. Because it's in, yeah, and it's in your heart, and that's
No,
important.
no, this is
Yeah,
and my intention is more to if that would not happen to me and I would know about it before, I would start immediately in supporting victims of terrorism. That is the thing that I would do, right? So if
yeah,
if if the situation would never happen, the attack would never happen, I would not attend, and I would be aware about this lack of
yeah,
support. I would start already previously
yeah,
with supporting victims of terrorism because that's an let's say lack of information in the public that there is a problem.
yeah,
Yeah. And I was not aware about
yeah,
it. So that's why I also talk about it in public, on TV and wherever.
yeah,
I got raised as a Christian. Yeah. It's the reality. And I've been raised like that, supporting other people, helping other people in need all the time. I mean, it's like the root of the family, helping each other.
yeah,
Because you always have a family member, for example, that is unfortunate, has some problems. My father was always there to help, always. Yeah.
yeah,
So that's how you're raised. And that's the society needs to go back to that. Yeah. I mean, maybe not in religion, but in general, to say we are one humanity, we are one human race, and we need to help each other. And if someone is on the ground, check out if he needs help. Yeah.
yeah. Absolute. Don't walk past, and definitely don't get your phone out. What?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, the only thing you should do with your phone is phone in to ask where the nearest defibrillator is, or
Yes, exactly.
for help, and not putting the camera on. What a sad state. But what I'll do, I'll finish up with this because I like it, Gerhard, I think I realised myself I had three things: helping others, my sport because it gives my brain a break from things.
Mm.
Sport's my thing, and actually we haven't done a lot of it, but we normally would, which is comedy and laughing. So I love comedy, I love laughing, and I know the topic and everything is very much a world away from laughing, but it's something that I like. And then when I saw this resilience framework, I thought I'd share it with you and anyone else that might want to listen to it. But there's five core elements, and that is doing the basics. So when you are really struggling, and the basics are things like healthy diet, being safe, good housekeeping. These are basics that keep you going. Protect. Walking. We walk every day, and it's on here. I'm not able to do sport the way I would like, but I can walk, and I learnt myself to swim and eating well. So they're the basics. So and this is about avoiding that spiral. Like I had a friend recently who's really struggled with the situation without going into too much detail, but I just wanted to try and my starting point, Gerhard, was if I'd speak to him at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, I'd ask him, where are you? And he would say, I'm in the bedroom. Okay.
Mm.
Are the curtains open or closed? And he would say, they're closed. Okay, so step one actually is to get up, get showered, and open the curtains.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
That's basics, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Basics.
Get
Because
daylight, go get out, get
yeah,
fresh air. Yeah.
get up and get out. And it's so I know it's hard when you're deeply traumatized, but I kind of love that kind of self-help rules. They've got here the second one is belonging. And I guess what they're saying is, a bit like you and I when we found each other is and I've done this the other way. So keeping good relationships, and actually I'll add to this. For me, Gerhard, that means moving away from ones that I don't like.
Mm.
So if there is those people that don't care about other people, or they're they have horrible views on people, or I'm really not interested. I move away. I don't have any, I can move on. So I guess that's part of the belonging bit is finding those really positive relationships. The learning bit I did myself recently. I went and did a well-being course, Gerhard. I don't know if I told you. So their third thing is learning. I went back and I did it's called Adverse Childhood Experiences. I loved it.
Mhm.
And I just found it quite rewarding to be able to learn something, but use my own experience in the answers. I found that very rewarding. And then the fourth one is coping. And then what ways do you cope? So there's various things down here. There is a bit of accepting in there, because you're accepting what's happened, but um, yeah, there's lots of elements in here, but doing things that are of interest, finding things like I know that you, for example, if you're okay with me saying, but I know you have a boat and
Mhm.
you can, that's
Yeah,
part of it, isn't it?
yeah. That
Take
that is something really important that you do what you really love to do, like bicycling or boating or being on a motorcycle, whatever it is. Take the time for you. That really
course, yeah,
something that you really like to do. And yeah, going swimming is fun. And yeah,
yeah,
that that is what we really like. Do it,
yeah.
do it.
And then there's as part of that, it does have the bottom laughing, and I've already said I seek out comedy. I love comedy, and it's just something I love doing. So that's part of that. And the last one is it's got here your core self. So the really, understanding yourself, looking in the mirror, understanding who you are. I think what I've heard from talking to you, Gerhard, to this depth is, you still believe in yourself. You believe that you're a good person. I think that's all we can do as humans is look yourself in the mirror and say, can I sleep at night? I tried to do the right thing. You did what you thought was right. You've said you would do it again and you wouldn't
Sure.
even think about it. And that's when you look in the mirror. It doesn't really, then you start the other things you can try and affect to help someone in the future. But when you look in the mirror at yourself, you know you did the right thing. You absolutely, and most people, I hope I would do the same. But until that cortisol drips into your brain, none of us really know. But I hope I could be as brave as you, and God willing, I would be. And part of that on there is taking care of yourself and helping others. It's just a little thing I just wanted to share because I quite like it as a bit of a guide, for
Mm.
people to try and help themselves. But what you did was immense. I know you're a it's not something you haven't won a trophy for sailing. This isn't like you want to be get a medal. It's just something that your humanity says that it's the right thing to do. I would do
Yeah.
it again. But I certainly am proud to know you because you're an incredible individual. And
Thanks.
you
You
got to
too.
keep up the good work, my man. And we need more people in the world like you for certain.
Tony, um, I'm really glad I know you, and because I also I'm very proud about you doing this podcast, video past or or whatever it's called,
Hmm.
because I think it's a very important subject for others as well. It's not just me. There are many people out there, and yeah, it's really great you're doing this, taking care about this.
Yeah. So Gerhard, I'm going to call it an end. Then thank you very much. You're an hour ahead of us. I wish you, your family, a brilliant Christmas, nice and peaceful. I hope you get lots of socks. I'm sure we might be in different countries, but I think the presents are still the same. And I wish you the best in everything you do next year, Gail. Take care, my friend.
Thanks, Tony.
Auf Wiedersehen.
I just have to go over tomorrow, the eighth anniversary, and then trying to get into Christmas mode.
I'm sure. Yeah. Well, I'll be thinking about you, Gerhard, and
Thanks, Tony.
sending you all the strength in the world. Take care, my friend.
Thanks.